cricketing fraternity lost a giant. Robert George Dillon Willis, Bob Willis as he was affectionately known, passed away after fighting a long, hard battle against cancer. I will leave others to talk about Bob and his cricketing exploits. I just want to say a few words about the Bob Willis that I got to know and love. I played against Bob obviously when he played for England, but I didn't get to know Bob until we joined forces in the commentary box in the UK for Sky Sports. I can still remember the first overseas tour we went on together, working for Sky when England toured South Africa way back in 2000. I remember the evenings, both of us trying to learn bridge, trying to play and learn bridge, taught to us by Paul Allott, who was on that tour, and how much fun we had trying to play that game. I remember the visits to various restaurants and hotels around South Africa, the dinners that we had together. Bob, who was a fine connoisseur of wine, trying to teach me a bit about wine and introducing me to some good ones. We had so much fun on that tour, and I think our friendship started to grow from then. We had many years together working for Sky, and I know a lot of people who have seen Bob Willis do commentary on Sky would have thought themselves, oh, he's a little bit dour, he's a little bit monotone. But if they really got to know the Bob Willis away from the commentary box, they would recognize such a different man. Sky, in their wisdom, took Bob out of the commentary box and put him on two highlights programs in the latter stages. One was the debate and the other the verdict. Pretty much programs that Bob owned. It was Bob Willis, those programs. And people got to see a different side of Bob. Yes, some of his comments were a bit harsh, some of them were a bit cutting, but even those comments, you could see the fun and the humorous side of whatever he was saying. People got to know a little bit about Bob, but then they still didn't really know the Bob that I knew. Being away from cricket, you could see that this man loved life. He was a good friend, he was a kind man. And Bob, yes, he's gone, but we know he will never be forgotten. R.G.D. Willis. Bob, rest in peace.
Clearly saddened by the passing of Bob Willis. It was only in July that we worked together on the program Verdict on Sky Sports, which was about the final of the 2019 World Cup. Didn't realize that we'll lose him in just 4 months' time. I've been always an admirer of Bob Willis because he spoke the truth. He added a lot of wit and dry humor to it. And was analytical in his approach towards cricket as well. So he'll be sadly missed. The other thing that I want to share with you guys is that Bob has always been part of our family home, and I tell you the reason why. He came to Pakistan way back in 1968 with the English schoolboys team, and my elder brother captained Pakistan schoolboys team in that series. So we'd have a group photograph of English schoolboys hanging on our drawing room wall. So every time we entered our drawing room, there he'll be, the tall, the length and the hair of it. And so I told this story to Bob as well, that you are a permanent fixture of our household, but really, really sad to see him go.
Well, where to even start? I don't know. It's so devastating to hear the news of another cricket legend gone. I don't use the word cricket legend by mistake. I use it on purpose. I remember when I met Bob for the first time, and it was as I sort of started my journey. I say started my journey, I wasn't sure I was going on it at all actually. In terms of commentary, it was in 2003, and I remember that it was in Cape Town. Cold days at the start of that 2003 World Cup, and John Gaylord, if I remember right, Tony Cozier would have been there, and maybe even Mikey Holding. It's 2003, so you'll forgive me if I have forgotten exactly, but Bob Willis certainly was there, and I met him for the first time, and as a young kid or young guy who had enjoyed playing cricket, still enjoyed playing cricket at the time, and meeting these guys who were legendary in my eyes anyway, and whom I had seen on the television and hadn't had the pleasure to meet before. It was kind of surreal. And subsequent from that, to have seen Bob and occasionally worked with him on the television, the guy that he was on the television was so totally different to what I got as a first impression. A really gentle guy, and one thing for sure is very funny, even with that first meeting, which I won't forget as a meeting. I remember that it was a cold evening and it was rainy in Cape Town. And, you know, sitting around just listening to all of them talk, not just Bob, was fantastic for me as I sort of made this foray into this world that seemed just absolutely filled with legends. Legends would always been at a distance, but when you got closer, you found out how genuine they were and just what nice people some of them were, especially Bob Willis. Yeah, he definitely will be missed. It's been great watching him on Sky, but knowing that that's not the guy, that there's a different guy, that there's a guy that many people won't have had the pleasure to actually sit with and listen to. And I heard on that very first day when I met him, from the guys around John Gaylord, not necessarily Mikey Holding, I think there's a guy called Vince who was around at that time as well, to say that he was called Bob because of Bob Dylan, even added his name on his birth certificate, or on his ID, as it were, because he liked Bob Dylan so much. So let's cheers, Bob. Rest easy, and God be with your family and friends. Condolences. Cheers.